Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Puddles, and today we're doing some Mega Dungeon DM walkthrough shiz. Level 7, Transmutation. It was a pretty fun dungeon. I've already ran it with my players, so I can tell you how certain things went. But I suppose let's just jump right into it. If I click on the right screen, there it is. Okay. So transmutation, changing things around from one thing to another. This is the spell list. Pretty straightforward stuff. Anything that's like enhancing strength or changing your skin to like rock or moving elements, controlling water. Polymorph is obviously the big one. Stone shape, things like that. Disintegrate. It's a lot of different types of things, but all honed in one sort of school of thought. One I will just go through. Sequester. So this is by means of spell, the winged creature or object can be hidden away, safe from detection for the duration. When they cast a spell, you touch the target, becomes invisible and can't be targeted by divination spells or perceived through rank. Okay, so basically you set a condition for the spell to end early. So that's something that it plays a part in this dungeon. Just in case people didn't know what that spell was, I just thought I would show you. I obviously went through the spells, wrote a bunch of notes, which I don't have here because I did it on paper, like a ancient. So I don't unfortunately have those here for you, but this is the dungeon. The theme of the dungeon was that the wizard Hajima was a experimentalist. She liked to do all sorts of crazy things, changing materials and often creatures into other things. Your mad scientist kind of a gal. Before the players were told to go in, before they went in, they were told that there was a sphere that had been sequestered. So this sphere, it's a sphere of annihilation, and as soon as 3 shots of a disintegration spell went in its direction, the sequester spell would end, and then the 4th disintegration spell would hit the sphere. And the party have been told to go in and stop this. The disintegration spells go off every hour, so the players only have 4 hours in this dungeon. 4 hours. And they've been told that nobody knows what will happen if a disintegrate spell hits a sphere of annihilation, but it's bad news. So that's the first thing that the players have been told. And they have to make their way through this crazy dungeon full of experiments to stop it. So we came to the first room. The players cannot see into it. There's a tiny little hole, and then there was this glyph here, which is like a moonbeam spell. Basically, if you polymorph into a creature, then go on top of this, it will revert you back to your normal form. So, how do the players get through this little door without turning into other creatures? Well, they use the true polymorph spell and then turn into those creatures forever. Easy fix, right? Players didn't know any of this, so how it works is they come over here and they drink a polymorph potion. They checked to see what potion it was, and I told them it was a polymorph. They all drank, and then they all turned into kobolds. So they now have 5 hit points, some of them. I made them roll. Whoever got the highest got the better of the kobolds. You can see here there's a few different kinds. And then via the message spell, Hajime told them that mixed in the polymorph spell was also a time stop spell. So they've actually been sitting there for an hour, even though it felt like a second. Which means the true polymorph spell has triggered and they are kobolds forever, meaning they can walk over this glyph. And then she told them that there are transmutation stones throughout this place, and the players just need to touch them, release their energy, and they will turn back into their normal selves. This was an awesome way to start the dungeon. Immediately, the 100 hit point barbarian is like, oh shit, I have 5 hit points now. This is scary. Now the players, and they have to decide who got the transmutation stones, but we'll continue here. They go through this little maze thingy. They are told by message spell So message spell is a transmutation spell, and I basically just used it as an info dump to tell my players what was going on and what they needed to do, because basically they're just being observed by Hajima, and she's just interested to see how they react to things. So they were told that everything in this room will animate once they take the transmutation stone, but if they defeat whatever animates, they might get magical abilities from it, whereas if they just smash it, they won't. So players destroyed the two statues and then fought the sword, the arrows, and the table, because the table also animated. One of the players used the transmutation stone, so they turn back to their normal selves. So one of them is a normal player, so I didn't think it was going to be too scary. But yeah, they did that, and they got a cool quiver. I also told the players that there is a time stop stone, and if they were to find it, they were to bring it back to Hajima once they find her, which is something that will happen later on in the dungeon. Next, we have a water maze. So with a control water spell, the water is either flowing this way or this way, and the red and the green button basically change the flow of direction. So they can use their strength to swim against the water, but using up their constitution, their breath to do so. So they could just sit in the water while someone pushes the buttons randomly, and then they can just make it through the puzzle. It took like 5 to 10 minutes for them to make it through. There was never really any danger because the barbarian had like 10 minutes of hold breath time or something like that. But it was kind of fun them not, because also this has I have global illumination on right now, but the players, they can't see anything. Like when someone jumps in the water and they're pushing buttons, they don't see where that person is or how far the thing goes. So it worked out really well. It was kind of fun. It ended up with 3 of them in the water, just getting like stuck in these like dead ends here. Like there's a dead end here, there's a dead end here, and like a couple of them getting stuck in there, one of them swimming against the tide to get to here. Yeah, it was pretty fun. And then there's this switch here which just turns off the flow of water so the rest of the players can swim through. Next, we have the transmutation. So there's water, and then there's lava. When you flick a switch, all the water turns into lava, and all the lava turns into water. And then obviously there's this little island in the middle. Players, they didn't really do this. They didn't have to. The druid had used one of the transmutation stones to turn himself back into a druid, and he turned into a flying eagle and just flew across, which was something that I was aware could possibly happen. But they could have. Basically, I set these traps or these puzzles up, and if the players want to use the flight spell or eagle to fly them across, then that's just them solving the puzzle, and that was fine. Next, we had a door here. You can't see it anymore because I deleted it. And basically, it was the knock spell. The players had to knock on the door and then tell the door a knock-knock joke. Once they told a sufficiently funny knock-knock joke, according to the door, it would open. It took them a lot longer than I thought it would to. I thought it would be one knock-knock joke, but yeah, that's how these things play out. Super simple, super easy. Next, there were these statues here, and the players pretty much knew that this was going to be a trap. It is the Cordon of arrows trap. Every time a player walks into here, 4 arrows shoot at them, 2 from each statue. Given that some of the players were still kobolds at this turn, it's still pretty deadly. They all made it through though. However, once they walk into this room, they are immediately sucked to the roof, as the reverse gravity spell is in effect in this whole room. And they take some more damage as they slam into the room because it's 30 foot high. It's like falling 30 feet. No one died, fortunately. And then we had the 2 last transmutation stones. They could have cast Mage Hand. The druid could have flew down and picked them up, but it ended up with one of the players summoning a bear. the barbarian standing on the bear shoulders and holding the kobolds up so that they could touch the transmutation stones, which is a valid way of doing that. And then once the 2 transmutation stones have been absorbed and the players are back in their normal bodies, the reverse gravity goes back down and they all fall 30 feet and take another 3d6. It was super short and simple and easy, but I really like this room for some reason. It was really creative the way the players dealt with it as well. Once that happens, this door opens to this experiment. And in this, we'll zoom in a little bit. You might be able to see, we have a cage. Inside the cage is a rat. And I describe this rat as having the top of its skull removed. You can see its brains and all these pipes and different things are coming out. And then there are these 4 buttons. The players pushed one of the buttons, the green one, and then some green liquid started going into the brain of the rat and it started acting a certain way. Then they pushed the blue button and then it started vanishing out of reality and then coming back. And then they pushed the last one and its fur changed. They never pushed the pink button because once one of the players stood on this, they were immediately shrunk down to a little mini thing, and then they fought this guy, which is the rat in the cage. So I'll just tell you what the buttons mean and how it all works. So this is like a giant cranium rat, 268 hit points, 13 natural armor. If one of the buttons was bark skin, so if they had have pushed the button, then it would have had bark skin. So the 3 buttons that they pushed were the steroid injection, which gives it haste, which makes it can attack more. The dimensional jolt, which gives it the blink spell, which I completely forgot about in the combat and didn't use once because I'm an idiot. And then the steroid injection was the bark skin. They didn't do the psionic interference, which was basically the slow spell. And then the magnetic harmonic, which is just the heat metal spell, is always going. They didn't have to do any things like that. It had like multi-attack. It had like a legendary resistance thing where it could automatically make a saving throw if it took 48 psychic damage, and it hit pretty hard. It was pretty good combat actually. I really enjoyed this. I would recommend shrinking your players down and making them fight a rat. It was pretty fun. But yeah, once that was all sorted and killed, the players were taken to this room. Oh no, they walked to this room. But oh my goodness, what's going on? Roll 20. There we go. Okay. Let's go back up to where we were. Okay, so now in this room, we have how do you do this? Is it shift double click? No. Z click? Oh, did I just figure out how to use... There we go. Yeah, we have this lady. This is Hajima. She's the transmuter. I described her, like, her arm was all different materials, and she was, like, taking it off and all this sort of stuff. I really like that art. Sorry, whoever artwork that is for stealing it. Basically, she tells the players they're doing well, gives them a flying potion and a spider climbing potion, and that if they find the stone, that they should give it to her. And then she sort of disappears, and she's always observing them, not that they know it. Then this room here, we have a rock, a table, some water, some like molten lava, and an anvil. All different materials that you could like transmute. The players walk into here, and then from the wall, this guy comes. He like melds out of the wall, and he is a troll that the players decided to smush his brain in the enchantment level, and he has come back for revenge. So he has the time stone, and he uses it to cast the time stop spell so that he has lots of rounds of combat before the players. And the warlock counterspelled it. It was a level 9 spell or something like that, and he rolled really highly and counterspelled it, and this guy got wrecked, which is fine. Basically what I was going to do was have him cast the time stop spell, which gives you... So you cast a d4 plus 1, and if you roll a 5, you get 5 rounds of combat before anyone else. So he was just going to levitate all of these different items above the players and then go back into the stone and run away. So he was going to put the lava above someone, and then it would just pour on top of them. And then next he would probably do the anvil, because that would do the next amount of damage, depending how many rounds of combat he had. But the players dealt with that fine. They killed him. and my carefully crafted thing just never happened. But that's basically what happens. Next, we have a spike growth room. This is what the climbing potion and the flying potion were for. They could walk through this and push the buttons, but then they would take a whole bunch of damage. But instead, they, one of them used the spider climbing potion, pushed all the buttons, then it opened a door here. This door opened, and then in here there were 3 items. There was a sword, a arrows, and an armor. And he chose the armor, and basically it was just like a magic armor transmutation. It just transforms whoever's armor into a +1 of what it already is. So if it was a +1, it'd be a +2. If it was normal, it'd be a +1, etc., etc. He did that to the paladin, who now has 20 armor even though he's using a great sword, which is pretty cool. And then we have the last part of the dungeon. I put these stones here, and I said, in your head, Hajima says to pick up the stone and say what is you want your strength to be. The players clicked on really quickly to this, and one was like, I want to be better at talking to people, and then I clicked, that's charisma. They basically were all just picking a stat. Whichever stat they chose was boosted by 2, but all of their other stats were -2. And I told them that they will get to keep the boost, but the minus will eventually disappear for the rest of after this dungeon. It's only for the end of this dungeon. And they were cool with that. And then we had this encounter here. I had the control weather spell, and grass and some more spiny traps, and then a whole bunch of were people. Because, transmutation, I had it that instead of them being lycanthropes, they were constructed from different parts of animals, sort of like chimeras. And this was a pretty fun encounter. The players dealt with it pretty easily because they are badass. And yeah, once that was done, we had just this final tunnel. So I just had these people who would just attack. So they're like animated statues that would attack if anyone walked past them. I just added them right at the end when I was actually running the dungeon, because I was like, well, this tunnel, the players are all still okay, but maybe if I crit one of them, they'll go down and it will be more exciting. Which it didn't. And then they made it here, which is the giant statue shooting the disintegrate spell at the thing. So I think they made it just in time. I gave them a 2-minute what's the word, a stopwatch thingy. 2-minute, oh my god, my brain is not thinking. Anyway, they had 2 minutes to decide what they were going to do, and I had a timer set and everything. And basically all they had to do was put something in front of the disintegrate spell to be disintegrated instead of the big old circle, or if someone had telekinesis, they could move the sphere somewhere. Someone ended up casting a stone wall around it, which was what I needed. One thing I didn't mention actually was when we were in this room here, when they were talking about the stones and they picked them up, I was going to say if anyone, Hajima did mention that because they had the time stone from killing the troll, that if they kept going past this room, she would have disintegrated whoever had the stone, because she told them to bring it to her. But she reminded them, and they were like, oh, okay, we totally forgot about that. We'll just leave it on this table here. But if they had have tried to deceive her or trick her, she would have come out of her etherealness, because she's basically in the ethereal plane, watching what they do, because this is an experiment in itself. And if they hadn't have done that, she would have just come out and evaporated or disintegrated whoever it was. But yeah, that was the dungeon. Super fun. This was probably one of my favorites. And yeah, if you like any of these things, you can totally steal them, use them in your campaigns. And yeah, if you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks again.